This is a video by Richmond. Today we're working on a Chevy Prizm / Toyota Corolla. This happens to be a 1998 model. And what we're doing today is we are replacing the clutch. First thing I did was drive the vehicle up on ramps. Now you can see that I've taken the hood off because I'm going to be using a winch above the engine to hold the engine in place when we take the transmission out. So the next thing we're going to do is loosen our axle nuts on both sides, and we're going to remove the battery right now. Next thing we need to do is to remove the reservoir right here for the radiator. Now we got the clamp slid back over the reservoir, slide that hose off just like that. Now we've got two 10mm nuts here that secure it down. Watch out, they can be rusted, so I work these nuts loose. There it is. We didn't break the studs, so we're looking good. Next thing we're going to do is to remove the air box cover right here and then the box underneath it. Now, over here on the hose that goes to the throttle body, there is one clamp I've got loose. And we've got a hose here. We want to loosen that. We've got an air temp sensor. Pull that out. Throttle cable is off. A couple of clips right here. Let's move that off the throttle body. And there's our cover. Now we need to take the rest of the box out. Let's see, we've got a bracket here on this solenoid, 10mm. We'll lose that bolt. And what do we got here? We got two 10mm inside the box. Whoa! Got a little rust there. There we go. Yep, and there was some rust there. Didn't break the bolt though, so that's good. Now we got one more here on the side. A little bit of rust on that one I could feel. Yeah, there sure was. Clean those up. We use those bolts being business. Let's see if we can get our box out now. Oh yeah, there we go. No problem. Next thing we need to do is to remove this ground bolt right here to the transaxle. It's a 17mm. Okay. Next thing we need to do is to disassemble the hydraulic clutch system off the transmission. We got right here one bracket with a 12mm bolt that I took off. We got another clamp right here, and down here we have, it's hard to see, right down here there's two more. Let me move over so you can see it. Okay, we got a couple of brackets right down here we got loose, and now the slave cylinder is held on by two 12mm headed bolts, and we got one left to remove. Okay, there it is. Now we can move this whole thing out of the way. Now we want to move this hydraulic system out of the way. like that underneath the wires. Underneath our throttle cable. And now we can put it way over here in the corner. There we go. Of course, we don't want to step on the clutch now that that's out. Next, we want to remove the backup light connection right there. Now, after we do that, we want to go down here and remove the vehicle speed sensor, which is right there. And we need to remove those now. Here is the connector off the speed sensor. See that part right there? That's the lock. You'll push that in with your thumb, and then over here, this area right here, you can use that for your forefinger. Put that like that. Squeeze it just like this and pull it off the transaxle. Next thing we want to do is pull these little pins off the shift cables to the transmission and remove those cables from the arms. Now, to get those clips off those shift cables, spray some penetrating oil on those and work them from side to side to loosen them up. They can be a little tight. This one, I've already loosened them. And there's the other one. And now we can just push the cable out of the bracket. And now she's clear. Next, we want to start removing the starter. And we want to start by taking out this top starter bolt, 14mm headed bolt right now. Now, before we remove our starter, we want to remove these plastic splash shields underneath the engine right now. Now, to remove the starter, we got a couple of things here. We got a little cover here. We just snap down. You'll see a 12mm nut underneath there. Now, here is our starter wire that comes down here, and it's got a little tricky lock. And what you want to do is to put one screwdriver in here and one push the button down, this lock down. And once you do that, so you can just flip that wire right off, which I already pushed that button in and pushed it out part way. And then over here we have the last lower 14mm headed starter bolt, and we need to take that out now, and then we'll be able to get our starter out. Next thing we want to do is jack up the car, put it on jack stands, take the weight off the wheels, and remove the wheels. At this time, I'm going to support the engine. You'll see on the back of the cylinder head there should be a hook you can use. Next thing we're going to remove is this plastic air duct here because it's in the way of our mount. Have a little push pin here, 10mm bolt down here. Lift that off that piece down there. We can remove that duct. Oh, another thing. Make a list as you go along. The progression of the parts you take off sure makes it a lot easier to put them back. Next, we need to take the left mount off right here. There are two 19mm head bolts right here that I've taken off, two 14s right here, and then this through bolt right here is 14. Now I've got a jack underneath the transmission to lift it up to take the stress off of this bolt, so it can remove pretty easily like that, and then we can remove that part of the mount right now. Now we need to take the rest of the mount that's on the transaxle. We have a 12mm headed bolt right there on this support bracket, and then right here we have three 14mm bolts that we loosened, and there is our bracket all off. Next thing we need to do is drain the transaxle. Now it holds roughly about 3 quarts, so make sure your container can handle that. Here is the drain bolt here on the bottom. She's a 24mm bolt. Oh, let's get that container underneath there. There we go. Let that drain before we take out our axles. Alright, we've got to get our axle out of the steering knuckle first. We've got our three 17mm bolts and nuts removed from the ball joint to the control arm. Slide that out. And there's our axle all out of the knuckle. Alright, now, normally you can pry these axles out a little bit. This one right here, on this side, has a little irregular casing. So on the axle is a little groove, so we're going to use that and tap it out.
I was just reaching to grab it.
Yep, that would have gave me a little help.
Well, I had to put my gloves on. And I just got my glove on, and I got down like this, and you, boom!
Well, I like to try to do it myself if possible.
But you did.
But I grabbed it before it hit the floor, so...
Yeah.
Alright, so we got that one out, and all we have to do is do the same to the other side, and our axles will be out. Remove the exhaust pipe from the exhaust manifold. I've got one bolt left on here. These bolts are 15mm headed bolts. Special shoulder bolts with a spring on them. Okay, now it's loose. And it'll let us move our engine around.